one thing that we really need for this project, which money can't buy, is patience. Hey everyone, welcome back to my sewing and DIY channel. Today we're going to be working on some invisible mending. This pair of jeans has been with me for almost a decade, and obviously we have been through a lot together and they're not going anywhere anytime soon. And today it's time for me to finally give it a little bit of TLC that it needs and fix this little rip in the crack of the butt that I noticed last summer. In this video, I'll be walking through the steps to achieving this seamless, invisible mending for patching up a hole in your pair of jeans. And bonus content, since I'm actually sitting down to fix my jeans, I'm actually going to be helping my husband to mend this huge rib in his pair of shorts as well. So I'll be going through an alternative approach to fixing and patching up a hole. And so, let's make some magic! To do invisible mending on a pair of jeans like these, you need supporting fabric, thread, and a sewing machine. The supporting fabric is the material that helps to give extra support to the thinning fabric and fill the holes or gaps from the ribs. You can use these denim patches with glue on the underside sold in craft stores, fusible, interfacing, or a fabric similar in stiffness and thickness as your pants or trousers. For longer lasting mends, I suggest using 100% polyester thread. The trick to achieving the invisible mend on jeans is to actually use 2 to 3 colors in shades like your denim. My jeans are navy blue with some faded areas, so I'm using 2 different shades of blue, one medium, one darker, and this medium gray. You'll see why as I start the mending later. And of course, we need a sewing machine. Now, there are nice things to have and there are necessary things to have to sew denim and to do invisible mending on denim. The number one necessary thing to have is to have a really sharp needle in your sewing machine, ideally one that's designed to sew through denim. And some of the nice things that you could have to make this job easier for you are things like the ability to reduce the pressure of the presser foot of your machine and or the ability to disengage the feed dogs of your machine. And by feed dogs, I mean the little groovy thing that lies under the throat plate. For the machine that I'm using today, I can actually do both, so that's what I'm going to be doing. If you don't have either of these functions in your machine, you can also consider using a walking foot. The ultimate goal is to make sure that the machine isn't clamping down too hard on the fabric and that it's going to be easy for the fabric to pass through the machine. I've sewn really thick materials with a regular sewing machine without either of these functions, and it can be done because the one thing that we really need for this project, which money can't buy, is patience. Now, let's begin the mending process. Start by attaching the supporting material to the wrong side of the jeans around the crotch area that needs the support. For my jeans, I decided to use this big denim mending patch with the glue on the back. It's just big enough to cover both left and right areas of my bottom crotch. If you're using plain fusible interfacing, cut a piece of interfacing that's just big enough for the area of the crotch that you need to fix. The shape of the bottom crotch is rounded, so having a tailor's ham will be helpful for this process of applying this piece of supporting fabric to the denim. But if you don't have a tailor's ham, you can also achieve the same goal by using the tapered end of the ironing board. Next, load your machine with the first color. In my case, I started with the medium blue thread. And now we're going to patch up the rib in the jeans. We will be working with the right side of the jeans facing us, so turn your jeans right side out. Begin by sewing small zigzag stitches along the areas that need obvious reinforcement. Go back and forth the area a few times. If you struggle to use the backstitch function of the machine and hold the fabric at the same time, then you might find it easier to just turn your jeans around as you work. Be careful while you're sewing and make sure you're only sewing the crotch and the supporting material together. Next, switch to straight stitches and a darker thread. I left the same blue thread in the bobbin since we're sewing with the right side of the jeans facing up, and the top thread is what's going to be showing on the right side. Sew around the general area where the supporting material covers in a zigzag fashion like this. Over here, I'm using the backstitch function of my machine and pivoting left and right by a small angle to make my zigzag pattern. After sewing with the medium and darker thread, your area of mending should look like this. Repeat the same process of using straight stitches to sew in a zigzag shape with the third color. In my case, I used the medium gray thread for this last step. My jeans have a white undertone to it, but I felt like this medium gray mirrors it better. What do you think? Now, when it comes to invisible mending, it's really important to stop and take a step back to look at your work before continuing every time you change a new color. At the end of the day, the additional stitches are meant to just fill in the hole and permanently secure the supporting material to your jeans. Less can sometimes be more. After sewing with the gray thread, my mended patch looks like this on the outside and like this on the inside. Now let's try to mend this huge rip in my husband's shorts. I'm just looking at the shorts now and realizing I fixed this before. There's this part along the seam where the stitches are different because I've sewn over it before. Anyway, back to the program. The general approach that I used to mend these shorts are similar to my method to mending my jeans, but with two key differences. Number one, instead of using a patch material with glue on the back, I'm using this medium weight navy twill cut in a big 10 by 10 inch square. Just like the jeans, you want a patch big enough to cover the area that needs some TLC. Because this is just fabric without any glue on the back, I pinned the fabric in place under the crotch and again, using the tapered end of the ironing board to help me shape the rounded crotch over the patch. By the end of the mending process, the color of the supporting material will be covered almost fully, and you'll see how in just a few moments. I know it looks like diaper pants right now, but we'll be cutting the excess off later. Also, instead of using 3 different colors of thread, I'm only using this gray because this pair of shorts is a solid gray color. Just like I did with my jeans, I started by sewing zigzag stitches to reinforce the areas that needed most support. Because the rip is much bigger and the fabric is actually ever so slightly stretchy, I had to kind of position the crotch in an angle that closes up the rip as much as possible. Once the zigzag stitches were in place, I reinforced the rest of the area with straight stitches like I did with the jeans. I went over the area that needed to be filled with the same gray stitches multiple times until the entire area was covered with the stitches. Again, less is sometimes more. You can sort of see some navy blue peeking from underneath, and that's 100% okay because you really won't see it when the shorts are actually being worn. Okay, despite my biggest efforts, I still got the patch material folded by mistake in the process of mending, but hey, I'm calling it serendipity because it's right under the biggest part of the rib anyway. So, after sewing most of the reinforcing stitches, I trimmed the patch material and sewed around its border. And here is how it looks on the outside. Wow. And there, a pair of jeans and a pair of shorts that we will continue to wear for many more months and hopefully years down the road. Hi! I hope you've enjoyed this little mending tutorial project for the week. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you learned something new today. If you like sewing and DIY, subscribe to my channel and I will see you again next week for more sewing, DIY, and a little bit of fun. Bye!